And welcome to the pre-show. We are live. If you're watching this on the replay, you can fast forward about 10 minutes and we will get started. My clocks are all off. I wonder why that could be. Because I was hit with a hurricane. That's why. So the whole studio was sort of shut down for good for a couple days until we got power back. But things are fine now. Took another day for internet to return. But we made it. Let's change the website, shall we? So that it actually has something at the top that talks about this nonsense that we are doing. Let's see, that would be a bookmark, and it would be right there. Let's do that. Hello, chat room. Welcome. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can flip over to professormesser.com/live, and you'll see a chat room at the bottom. This is the live event chat that I am generally looking at. So let's change our settings. Let's change the promo bar at the top of the website. And it says, my A+ study group is Wednesday is right now. Click here to join us. And let's change the link to /live. And save the changes. And we're good to go. The clock on my mixer is wrong. There's a clock there at the top. It's wrong. It's wrong, mixer. By a couple minutes. It's way off. Let's see if I can remember the IP address of my mixer. Can I? I don't think I can. Although it's strange it did not NTP the correct thing there. I may not have my routes set up for this. What network is this on? I thought it was on the 20 network. Let's bring up my IP address spreadsheet so I can remember where the heck everything is, shall we? Okay. Mixer. That's why. It was incorrect. There it is. There's my mixer. It's been up for 4 days and 3 hours and 35 minutes. So you can do the math. Time. Let's look at the setup. Now I have to remember all the passwords and everything. It is set up. I wonder if that's not the right NTP. Got a sync error on the NTP. So I'm going to have to... What did I do? Let's just take one out of the pool. This thing does not resolve IP addresses. So I have to give it an IP address for NTP. So I just grab whatever comes up in pool.ntp.org. And we'll see if it syncs. Will it sync? Let's find out. We will refresh the page. What is the time? So it's not done in NTP yet. Oh, and look, the log all says, you can't see this, but the log all says no response within 100 milliseconds. 100 milliseconds? Boy, it's got to be, the NTP's got to be right there. How can I show you? Here's my log. There's the log. Where's me? There I am. You can see no response. There's nothing going on. This is my mixer front end. My mixer is all an IP system. So now we have to see if it's going to update itself. It's a mystery. I should probably not be messing around with the mixer configuration just prior to a live event. Or one could say in the middle of a live event. Did this go through change control? It did not. Did not. So there's stuff there, there's stuff here. That's wrong. Let's put me here. That's good. Camera 2, camera 3, camera 4, but camera 4 is not showing what it's supposed to show, which is that. How about the graphics? Yeah, there we go. That's all good. Stuff works. Who is this guy? I don't even know that guy. Or these people. I don't know those people either. Socrativ's working. Socrative.com. Room. Professor S are all lowercase. Like that. Bop, 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 bop. Yeah, it's all stock photos. The stock photograph. How are things looking with the storm? This is where I live. This is oh look, I could buy a subscription, except I'm here. It's bad here. There's trees everywhere. Trees that are down, power lines down. Still tons of people that don't have power here in my immediate area. I think I've got a power outage map for the city. So everything that's red, they had to make the map now static. So they're down to 7,260 customers, power customers that are still affected by this storm that came through last week. It came through on Thursday night. And so it's been almost a week, and all of these red dots are people still without power. It was massive. The entire map, I have a screenshot of it somewhere. The entire map was just red. It was just a huge red map. I wonder if I still have that. I wonder if I really did save that. Probably saved it. I probably didn't save it in here because the studio was completely shut down. There was no power whatsoever. No, it's on my laptop. Oh, wait, my laptop is right here. Laptop's not usually in here. The laptop is usually somewhere else. I only bring it in for the live streams. So did I really save it? Sort it by date. Doesn't look good. Wonder where I saved it. Probably on my phone. Or my iPad, because those were the only things really working or that we wanted to use. I didn't know when I would have power back, so we were using things sparingly. I guess I did not take pictures of the storm. I took pictures of the storm. I don't have a picture of that to give to you. I took a picture of the storm coming through. It was a pretty bad hurricane. What time is it? We got 2 minutes. Let's look at my photographs on my phone. Did I save it here either? No. Well, there you go. Let's start up our keynote again and get rid of our electrical outage maps. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. A lot of wind. Well, you can't have power lines in the ground everywhere. My power lines coming into my home in this neighborhood are in the ground, but of course, as soon as you get out of the neighborhood, they're on places that are not the ground. Oh, look, there's the tweet has gone out. Oh, I guess so, a few minutes ago. So welcome, everyone. What else do I need to do? Are we recording? Yes, we are. You can see the Cylons going on down to my lower right. So that works. Let's start a presentation here. That looks good. Let's prep some graphics. How do I look? That's the most important part, really. It's very important. Okay. NTP still is not picked up on that. I wonder if that is even routing properly. I wonder if there's a route I'm missing. If I could explain to you how my network is set up, it's a thing. It is a thing. But with that, I think it's about time to get started. Shall we? Why don't we? It'll be great. It's delicious. It's delightful. All right. It is lovely. Let's begin. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the September 2016 Professor Messer A+ Study Group. I'm your host, James Messer, and I'm here taking you through the questions and the answers that we will be giving during this 1-hour session. It's actually more than an hour. I usually go a couple of hours, but our Q&A, our formal part of the study group today, will be during this first hour. And then the second hour, I just open up phone lines and we talk about everything. There's so many things going on. In the pre-show, I was talking about the hurricane that came through this past week. Was not even sure we'd be able to have a study group, but now we have electricity. Our internet connection is back on, and everything for the most part here at the studios is back to normal, although there are a number of people in my particular area that still do not have power. So it's a little bit of a concern. I want to thank everybody for joining us, though. This is something I do every month, so you can always check the calendar, professormesser.com/calendar, to find out what's going on. Replays are always available on the website. You can also go to professormesser.com/YouTube and get the replays there as well. You can always be updated on all of these things at professormesser.com/Twitter. Just type in professormesser.com/aplace. The Instagram. You could type in LinkedIn, although I'm rarely on there anymore. You can go to YouTube and Twitter, Google+. Just type in something at the end. It will take you to that place. Also, don't forget about our discounted vouchers, thanks to the folks at GTS Learning. You can learn more about those at professormesser.com/vouchers. And of course, I've got my 900 series course that I'll talk about in just a moment. If you are watching this and you already have your A+ certification or your Network Plus or your Security Plus, this applies to all of those, you can receive a continuing education unit just by watching this. It's been a couple weeks since I've sent out my CEU, so I'll be doing that this afternoon after this event. And sometime during this first hour, I will give you a special keyword. And that's how I'll know that you actually watched this. And so that tells me that you're watching this. I'll send you back an email that has been digitally signed by me that says, yes, you must have watched this because you happen to know what the keyword happens to be. If you want to know more about this, you can go out to the CompTIA website, type in CompTIA CEUs, and it'll give you the breakdown. You can see on here, attending a live webinar in a 3-year cycle, you can obtain 4 CEUs. You can't watch all webinars to get your renewals, but you can get at least 4 CEUs by watching this. So that might help you as well. This latest version of the A+ exam is the 229.01 and the 229.02. In an English-speaking country, those are the only versions that are available. Until the end of the year, both the 800 series and 900 series exams will be available in countries where English is not the primary language. So those English language versions retired the 800 series. So if you're in a country where English is the primary language that you're speaking, you should be studying the 900 series materials. Do not use the 800 series. A lot of things have changed since those have come out. Both exams, though, if you're taking either the 800 or 900, depending on where you live in the world, both of those give you exactly the same A+ certification. So you don't have to shift gears if you've already been studying for the 800 series if you're in one of those countries. So that can be very useful. And if you're already A+ certified, maybe you certified with the 800 series exam, you don't have to take the 900 series to remain certified. You could, but CompTIA has also introduced an upgrade version of the exam. So if you're 800 series certified and you'd really like to be certified on the latest version, or you'd like to renew your certification, they have kind of a bridge certification test that you could take, which is not as involved as the 901 and 902. It's a single exam. It really only covers the new things in the exam. So that might be something to look into. You can find out all about that out on the CompTIA website. One of the things that I mentioned last month is that I have a book out. This is the first book I have authored in many years. I always said I would never do another book. So, of course, here's my book. And, of course, I'm working on the second one right now. The book is the 229.01 Pop Quiz Collection. It's a PDF that you can buy right from my website. 700 questions just for the 901 exam are in this book. It is a massive, massive book. There's a lot going on. The book itself is structured in a way that I've got both multiple choice and I've threw in some performance-based questions just to give you a feel for what those performance-based questions might be. And my own personal tips and tricks are in there as well. It's a digital PDF that I have. I'm going to step through a number of pages of the book just to give you a feel. I know this is, let's zoom up on this so you can see it. So I broke them out by the 901 domains as well. And what I did with this book is I made it, since it's an electronic version of the book, I tried to take advantage of the electronic type of it. You can click on, look at any of these questions, you can click on the link that says jump to the answer. So you've just purchased a new dual-core PC, but you look at the Windows Task Manager performance, you see usage statistics for 4 CPUs, what would be most likely cause. You can look at the answers, and if you want to know the answer, you can, of course, write it down what you think it is and go to a page that lists out all the answers, or you can click Jump to Answer, and it takes you to that specific question, which is way later on in the book. It shows you what the answer is. I give you a description of what that answer really meant. And then I give you a link to the specific objective that is covered by this question and a link to my video that covers that specific topic. Then once you do that, you can click Next Question, and it takes you back to the questions. Here's 1-4, 1-5. Notice I'm not giving you the next answer. I'm not spoiling the next answer for you. You can simply jump to that answer, see the answer, jump to the next question. It's an easy way to move back and forth. So if that's something you think that might help you, you can learn more about this at professormesser.com/PQC, Pop Quiz Collection. And it's one that really is something a lot of people like. They're already asking me, where's the 902 version? And I am working very hard right now to finish up the 902. I'm at the very end of editing the last bit of questions, so I don't expect there to be much longer before those are available. Looking forward to that. A lot of you, though, have said, I want to be able to see questions online. I want to take some tests online. And so I've done this for you as well. This is brand new. Nobody knows about this. Well, a few people do that have been on the website. I've taken all of these questions that we always do in these study groups that I've been doing for years and years. I have a lot of questions compiled from all of these study groups, literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of questions. So these are questions that are not in my books. These are brand new, different questions that I write specifically for my study groups, and I'm putting them online, slowly getting them out there. So you can find them at professormesser.com/popquiz. There's 20 questions in each one of these. I've got questions out there for A+ and Network Plus and Security Plus. As I mentioned, they come directly from an archive that I've done. So if you haven't gone back years and years into the archive, then you probably have never seen these questions before. And I'm going through the questions and I'm making sure they're up to date. So everything has been checked to make sure they're for the latest version of the 901 exam objectives. There are, so far, I think I've got about 80 questions online. Let's go back to that. Was it really 80? I think it was. I think I've got about 80 questions online, 40 for the 901 and 40 for the 902. So I have a lot that are queued up. I just have to go through and do the editing. So you will see over the coming days, there will be even more that were there. I was hoping to have more available, but with the hurricane coming through and the disruption of no power and no internet, it had an effect on how many I was able to do. But I got 80 of them out there, which I think is a pretty good stab at it. A lot of people like having questions online. This is a great way to do it at professormesser.com/popquiz. But today we're going to do brand new questions you aren't going to get in any of those other places. And I want you to follow along and answer with me. The way that you do that is you open up a new window in your browser, or you open one up on your mobile device, or you install an app on your mobile device from Socrative. You go to Socrative.com. There's links there to install the app. You can also go to your App Store or Google Play or the Windows Store to install the apps that are specific for your particular application device. You can also just pop open a new browser window, which works great as well. When you get to Socrative.com, you click the Student Login button. And once you click Student Login, you need to put in this specific room name and make sure you spell it right. It is Professor Messer. ProfessorMesser. Professor Messer. Make sure you get that right. If you do not put that name in properly, you'll be in a room where you're just waiting for the teacher to show up, except it's just as if you walked into the wrong room yourself. There's nobody here. Am I in the wrong room? You probably are. So make sure you type that in correctly. Professormesser, all lowercase, all one word. And you should be in here, and you should see when you do that, this question, which says, how long have you been studying for your A+ certification? And I have a list there of less than 3 months, 3 to 6 months, 6 to 9 months, more than 9 months, or 23% of you already have your A+ certification. And now once you're on this page, you just stay there. I'm going to click some buttons on my side, and you will see the questions will magically change on your screen, and we'll be able to follow along and go through all of these questions ourselves. So it's a good way to do this. It's a way that I can ask you questions, you can give me feedback, we can find out just how much you might know about these A+ topics. We'll be going through A+ topics for the 901 exam and the 902 exam. So I'm going to step through a little bit of everything today. Let's start with one that I think is a 902 question. If I'm correct, I am correct. This 902 question says, which of the following would be the most likely reason to run SFC? Whatever that is. Now, remember, I don't want you to answer this in the chat room. Don't type it in online. You should be going to Socrative.com to the room name Professor Messer to be able to read this. So you can see, in fact, I do have a number of options available. Is SFC something you would use to repair the boot sector? Would it be to recover from a malware infection? Would it be to install security patches? Maybe it's to upgrade the operating system or to schedule a recurring task. And which of these would be the most likely reason that you would run SFC? SFC absolutely is a topic that is covered on the 220-902 exam, so it's an important one that you should know as well. This is one that very useful to have this. So if you want to be able to answer this, you need to go to Socrative.com, go to the room name Professor Messer, and click the student login to be able to get to that room name. So make sure you click the student login, not the teacher login. Teacher login's for me. Student login's for you. So click that student login. You'll be able to answer. There's a number of you that are already in there answering these things. This is a pretty good question because it makes you do a couple of steps, makes you go through a couple of ideas in your mind to be able to do this. So maybe you are able to use that SFC and what it's there for. What would you use SF? First, you have to know what SFC is. And once you have the idea of what SFC is, you might even know what it stands for. How do you use it? Which is really the most important part of the A+ exam, to be able to do that. See if you can answer the question. A number of you have already gone through and answered the question about SFC and what it might be. This is one that becomes very useful to be able to do that. SFC, let's see how we did, how we answered with this one. Let's click the How Do We Do button on the screen. If we had to pick a winner, it looks like 38% of you said repair boot sector. In second place, I guess with 31% is to recover from a malware infection. 15 or 16% said install security patches. 11% said schedule a recurring task. But hardly anybody, 3%, said upgrade the operating system. Now, which one would it be to be able to do that? I wonder what it would be for those pieces. Let's find out what SFC actually is. Maybe that will help us understand more about these pieces. SFC stands for System File Checker. It's used as an integrity scan. This is something extremely useful because if you're ever wondering, is my Windows installation installed properly? Are all of the proper files in place? And the files that are in place, are they actually the original files that were installed with the operating system? Are they legitimate Microsoft operating system files? This is a great integrity scan to be able to confirm to yourself that, yes, at least the Windows infrastructure, the Windows operating system that's running inside of my computer has all of the right files. And whether it's working properly or not, that's something different. But we know that it has all of the right files at least. And all of those right files are pretty important whenever you're working through all of those pieces. So if you look at all of the different things that you could do with SFC, now that you know what SFC does, let's step through these different pieces. Now, a number of you said repair the boot sector. Well, the boot sector really doesn't have anything to do with Windows. The boot sector is telling your computer where to go to install Windows. So unfortunately, the 42% of us that chose A did not get this one correct. This would not be used to install security patches either, because this is something that just checks to see if the files that you have are already the ones that it should be. And one of the options that it has is to update your Windows operating system files back to their original versions, but those are not security patches. Those are simply your operating system files, so it would not be to install security patches. It's not used for scheduling any tasks. You would perform this SFC function yourself, and it would not be to upgrade the operating system. This is something that's used to confirm that the operating system that you are running is one that is running properly. So the correct answer in this particular case, what would be the most likely reason to run SFC? To recover from a malware infection. You will find that malware likes to modify system files. It likes to change the files that are used in the operating system itself. And in those particular cases, it'd be very useful to check to see, did it touch anything? Now, of course, I think the best way to recover from a malware infection is to wipe everything from your computer and reload the operating system from scratch or load from a known good backup. That is truly the only way that you can guarantee that a piece of malware is going to be completely removed by your computer. So in this particular case, you can at least find out if you didn't have a backup or you don't have a way to recover from a brand new clean operating system install. This might be a plan C or plan D. And recovering from a malware infection, that's a very common thing to do, is run the SFC command and make sure your operating system files are in good place and make sure they're all working the way you would expect. Let's shift gears a bit and move to a question. Maybe this will be a good rebound question for us. This would be a 22901 exam question. And the question is, in which of these would you be most likely to use the NX bit? Notice this is using some of the terms that are very commonly used on the CompTIA exams. And very often, the answers that you get in some of these questions may apply to the question. You may see 2 or 3 answers that could possibly work, that technically could be a correct answer. The CompTIA likes to ask you for the one that is the best answer or the most likely reason for doing something, and this one is a good one as well. It asks you, which of these would you be most likely to use the NX bit? Again, it's a 2-step process because first you have to know what the NX bit is, and then you have to be able to answer it. And if you think you know what the answer is, don't answer in the chat room. Go to Socrative.com, go to room name Professor Messer. Your possible answers are, would it be used to stop network-based intrusions? Would it be used to clean a virus infection? Would it be to restart the operating system automatically? Would it be to enhance application security? Or would it be to block network traffic at the firewall? One of these would indeed be the most likely use of the NX bit, whatever that is. If you think you know the answer, there's your link, Socrative.com. Pop open a new window, go to a new screen, click the student login button, and go to room name Professor Messer exactly as it's spelled on the screen right there. Maybe you know about the NX bit, what that's for. Or maybe you're trying to remember what the NX bit is for. The NX bit is very specifically mentioned in the CompTIA exam objectives. So this is one where you're going to need to know, what is that used for? And in the chat room, people are going, I don't know what NX bit is. Well, this is why we have these study groups. You're going to know what the NX bit is right after this. People are, NX, what are you talking about? NX? Is that even spelled right? It is. This is the correct thing. NX bit. It is a new topic on the 22901. So if you've been studying the 800 series content, you'll realize, wait a second. That doesn't make sense. I don't like that. That's not something you should do. I wonder what that's all about. Maybe you happen to know. If you know, don't answer in the chat room. You should go to Socrative.com and answer. And let's see how we did with Socrative.com. Let's click how do we see. A lot of you are Googling right now. I can tell. The numbers don't hop up quite as fast when you're busy Googling the answer. How did we do? Well, let's see. 44% said enhance application security. We have a tie for second, stopping network-based intrusions and blocking network traffic at the firewall. Hardly anybody, single digits, said to clean a virus infection or to restart the operating system automatically. Well, and indeed, here we go. This would really be the best way to tell what it is. Let's go through the options of what these possible answers could be by looking and seeing what the NX bit actually is. NX stands for no execute. Wait, I thought it wouldn't be the NE bit? Well, they didn't do that. I guess they like that X. I guess NE didn't work. The NE bit, I guess NX seems to work better for the folks at Intel. Intel actually calls it the XD bit, execute disable. We certainly can't use the right letters at the beginning. And AMD calls it enhanced virus protection. But I didn't want to tell you it was enhanced virus protection. spoils the answer immediately to be able to have that there. This is a way that this is built into the processor of your computer. Obviously, if we're talking about Intel and we're talking about AMD, it's in the processor itself. And it's a way that the processor can take sections of memory and designate these sections as a place where applications should not execute. This is the way, or one of the big ways, that malware is able to take over your computer, because it's running a piece of software on your computer and taking over different aspects of your operating system. But if you can stop it from running that software from the very beginning, you can obviously stop the malware in its tracks. And that's what the NX bit actually does. It's able to block it right in its tracks and be able to do that. This is something that is important for the processor to have, but it's also something that the operating system has to support. In Windows, you may see this feature called data execution prevention. And if you've ever been running a program and gotten a message pop up in Windows that says DEP has blocked this application from doing something weird, from doing something that we think is bad, and we're not going to allow this application to work properly, that's because this NX bit has kicked in, talked to the operating system, and said, indeed, this is not something you would expect. In fact, maybe we're running malware and it stopped malware from executing in the operating system. This is something that's turned on automatically. You don't have to do anything special to make that happen. You just need to be able to run Windows, have these applications start working. You've got a processor that can support it, and it will begin stopping the malware right in its tracks, at least some kinds of malware right in its tracks. So let's see how we did. We can see that the folks that 44% of you that said enhance application security, you got that one absolutely right. That's exactly what the NX bit does. It enhances the application security at those. This is one that becomes pretty useful to be able to do that. This is also one where it doesn't stop any applications or anything on the network. So you're not going to stop network-based intrusions. You're not going to block network traffic at the firewall. This is something that happens in the operating system itself. So it's going to be enhancing application security. That is the most likely reason to have that NX bit enabled for that. So if you answer D, 45% of you got that one absolutely right. Well done with that. All right, we've got more questions for you. I think I've got one more here that I can give to you. This one, is this one a multiple choice? This one may be, I think I did put multiple choice in for this one, or is this fill in the blank? Let's find out. It is a multiple choice question, which is, what is the maximum distance of this cable in meters? It's a video daily double. You need to be able to identify this. Don't answer in the chat room. Don't tell me in the chat room what it is. You need to think to yourself, what is that cable? What is that used for? And I'm looking for the maximum distance for this cable in meters. And I put down some multiple choice here that you can see. It's 1, 3, 5, 10, 15, and 20. One of those. See? These are kind of hard this time, aren't they? See, you should never, ever send me emails that say these questions are too easy, because I take those types of feedback to heart. And I put in hard questions. These are, of course, on the CompTIA exam objectives. You have to know these things. I'm not giving you questions that are outside the scope of the exam. These are things that you have to know when you're walking in the door of the exam. So you first have to know what that particular cable is. And I've got a better picture in here. Let's see. There's a better picture. There's a close-up. You need to know what this cable is, and then you need to know maximum distances. There's an entire section, and I assure you, it was just as painful to put together this video as it was to do anything else. This is one where whenever you start going through the pieces of trying to figure out, you have to know what the cable is. This is part of the question. In the chat room, don't answer in the chat room. You're not supposed to be able to know in the chat room what it is. You're supposed to be able to answer this question, which is, what is the maximum distance of this cable in meters? So you do have to know the cable. So you can't Google that. You can't. I guess you could quickly do a 10i, a reverse image search on the image, which would take you to probably where I got the image from, which might give you an idea of what type of cable it is, which could then give you the idea of what to Google to be able to tell. But by then, I'm already at the how do we do section where I'm clicking the button. And as you can see, we're sort of torn. We're not really sure exactly what we're doing with this and how we're using these. This is one where whenever I start stepping through all of these different these different cables, these different connectors. You have to know speeds, feeds, speeds and distances. So this is pretty important to be able to have that here. This is pretty torn, though. You can see we're almost tied for first, 3, 5, and 10. You folks are guessing, aren't you? You're not even sure what that is, how it works. This connector is a Thunderbolt connector. This is one where whenever you're working through it and using Thunderbolt, very common thing to see on most modern motherboards these days. Very useful to have it there. This is one that has both data and power on the same wire, so you can even power some devices that are connected to Thunderbolt. A lot of the devices I use for Thunderbolt have their own power. It depends on the power consumption required by that device. It is something that is based on the mini DisplayPort standard, so this interface is exactly the same for mini DisplayPort. So if you're plugging in a monitor, it's really using the same exact configuration. In fact, the Thunderbolt has separate channels in it, some that are dedicated for the DisplayPort side, some that are dedicated for the data. In reality, it's really all the data side. The speeds of Thunderbolt range depending on what version of Thunderbolt you're looking at. The different versions, Thunderbolt version 1, 10 gigabits per second per channel, 20 gigabits total throughput in Thunderbolt version 1. The version 2, 20 gigabits per second aggregated across both channels, and the latest Thunderbolt version 3, a screaming fast 40 gigabits per second on Thunderbolt version 3, which is pretty good for a technology that's been out as long as it has been out. Very fast. I use Thunderbolt for a number of connections, not only for my video that's in the studio, but I have Thunderbolt here that is allows me to access some of the drives that are recording. You can see the Cylons there that are recording the video right now to be able to do that. So I'm plugging into the same interfaces on my computer, which are Thunderbolt. I'm plugging in to DisplayPort. I'm plugging into a native Thunderbolt. So the answer, of course, in the chat room, people are saying, what's the answer? What's the answer? It's right here. It is a maximum of 3 meters over copper, and the 60 meters if you have an optical Thunderbolt connection. But I haven't seen any optical. I guess it's in the standard. I've never used any optical connections for Thunderbolt, but it's nice that it has that there to be able to look through this. And you can daisy chain these as well. In fact, I have a daisy chain configuration for some of the connections that I have. So I have one Thunderbolt connection coming into my computer, and then I can daisy chain across multiple devices so that I don't need additional cables or additional interfaces on the back of my computer. Comes in handy to be able to do that. So if we go back and look at how we did, the answer being 3 meters is the total amount. If you answered B, the number 3 in meters, the 27% of you got that one absolutely right. These were kind of hard, weren't they? I think I get a little bit easier as we go along. So don't worry if you answered some of the others. You now learned what the distance was for Thunderbolt over copper connection, which is this interface. It is 3 meters as the maximum distance that you should know about. And of course, an important thing to know for the CompTIA exam objectives. It's all in there. I have a video just on the CompTIA exam objectives dealing with interface speeds and distances. It's a pretty important section of this. And of course, I have all of the speeds and all of the distances and all of these detailed minutia of statistics in my course notes. If you aren't aware of my course notes, I've taken all of the topics from every single one of my videos. So I've taken all of the graphs, all of the tables that I create, all of these images that I compile, all of these I do specifically for my course notes, and I put them all into a set of PDFs. So think of it as everything that you've spent time learning in the videos, I've collapsed into one single place. I've got them, in fact, I think I've got them on my screen here, and we can look at them. Here's my course notes. Here they are. Here's the 901 course notes and the 902 course notes. And you can see, and there's a network monitor that pops up on the screen. There we go. So if we scroll down, I can even show you all of the different, there's RAID, there's the socket information, speeds and feeds. So Bluetooth, here is all the different pieces dealing with Thunderbolt. There's the Thunderbolt. The exact text that we just saw is in my my course notes. So I put everything in here. You can see it's crammed in here, and here's the interfaces themselves. So if you're ever wondering, what interfaces do I need to know for my exam? Here they are. In fact, there's the mini DisplayPort or Thunderbolt. It's the same connection right down there on the screen. I've got course notes for both the 801 are the 901 and the 902. The 901 course notes 43. Well, they aren't 43 pages. They're actually less than that. I compiled both my 901 and 902 in this one. So they are just under 20 pages. What do I have there? You can see what all the specifics are for these at professormesser.com/A+CN. They're $10 a piece. Everything that you purchase on my website goes back to keeping the website going. So I don't do a Patreon. I don't charge you for access to my videos. I make as much as I can available for you to watch absolutely free. And you can, of course, take your own notes. But what I've done here is compile everything in a way that also you can use to help support what we're doing here on the website. So I want to thank everybody for their ongoing support of the course notes. And of course, if you are someone who has supported me in the past and bought these course notes, thank you so much. It goes a long way to keeping things running here at the studios. I want to thank you so much for that. There is, of course, many more questions that we can go through. So let's do another one. This one is a 902 question. This one should be a little bit easier, I think. And the question is, which of these best describes the Linux DD command? I even gave you a hint here by saying it was a Linux command. I should have just said it was a DD command. But I think most of you would probably know that. The set of Linux commands and Mac OS commands are, of course, on the exam. You have to know not just Windows now. You have to know everything about a lot of different operating systems. You have to know iOS. You have to know Android, Windows Phone. You have to understand some Linux commands and Mac OS. Certainly the most of what you need to know is in the Windows operating system, but you're going to run into these operating systems anyway, so it's important that you know these things. The possible answers here would be DD would be to image a system drive, delete a directory, view connected network sessions, modify file settings, or manage application distributions. One of these, I see 47%. I already answered this. Some of you know this one. Clearly, you know some of those and being able to work through this. If you happen to know what this is, no answering in the chat room, you need to go to Socrative.com to the room name Professor Messer, and you can answer this. If you're already there, of course, you've seen it simply updates this as we go. I'm going to sneak in and kind of look to see how we're doing. I think we need to work on our Linux a little bit. For this, in the chat room, some folks are asking, when is the A+ command or the A+ certification going to be updated? It was just updated. This latest version of the 900 series was released on December the 15th. So it's really only been out less than a year. We tend to see updates. These exams occur about every 3 years. So you really have about 3 more years before this exam ever goes away. So you're in pretty good shape there as far as these are concerned. Plenty of time to go through this. So which of these would best describe the Linux DD command? Let's find out by going back to Socrative and clicking How Do We Do? 54% of us, we have a majority, have said delete a directory. 23%, that would be in second place, image a system drive. 17% said modify file settings. And then single digits for viewing connected network sessions and managing application distributions. So this is one where knowing the DD command may be really helpful for us. DD, interestingly enough, DD is one where the name of it doesn't exactly correlate back to what it is. This sometimes happens with some of these operating systems and especially in Linux. In DD, you are converting and copying a file, backing up, restoring. If you ever need to image an entire partition, this is the program you're going to use to be able to do that imaging. This is one where if you look at the DD command itself, you can create a disk image by simply saying what the source file is, what the destination file is, and any options might be on this one. This is one where whenever you're working through these problems, you need to understand that this is exactly what DD is used for. Restoring from an image, same program. DD not only allows you to save the image, but allows you to restore the image. One nice thing about Linux, and everything in Linux is a file. Your display is a file. An entire partition is a file. So it's very easy to take that entire partition, it's acted upon as if it is a single file, and be able to work through this. So very commonly, DD is used, can be used for many things, but very commonly used to create and restore a disk image to your Linux system. It's used for backup. very commonly used for backup. So if we look at our possible answers, how did we do delete a directory? It's not used to delete a directory. The RD command in Linux is used to delete a directory. So unfortunately, our majority was not correct in this particular answer. It's not used to view network sessions or network connections. Netstat is the command you would use for that. Modifying file settings. The chmod command is usually used to modify file settings. Managing application distributions. There's a number of ways to do this in Linux, no standardized way. The actual answer, the one that is correct, is answer A. The 24% of you that answered A, image a system drive. So I'm sorry we weren't able to get you up to 50% on that one. The chat room's now angry with me. We're now at that point where they're looking for pitchforks. How are we going to take this out? I'm asking very, very difficult questions. But now you've learned something. I think that's one of the things I like to take away, because nobody knows everything. Here's a good opportunity to learn something new. Maybe you know this one. Let's do another question, shall we? You may do pretty well at this one. A Windows question. Finally, right? Finally, we've got what editions of Windows can support file level encryption? Select all that apply. And I have a number of options for you for supporting file level encryption for this. The file level encryption, you'll find, would it be Windows Vista Enterprise, Windows 7 Professional, Windows 8.1 Pro, Windows 8.1 Enterprise? Now, this is a question that you probably would not get on the exam. I'm really making this one much harder than it would be on the actual exam, because if this was an actual exam question, they would be telling you how many of these to choose. And I'm just telling you to select all that apply. So quite honestly, I'm making this a little bit harder than it actually is on the exam. So I can take the heat on that one. That was by design to be able to do this. Whenever I start working through these problems, it's also useful to break these down in a way that makes sense. So if you think you are familiar with file level encryption or understanding what file level encryption actually is, you need to apply that back to the list of capabilities for these operating system versions. This is, of course, something that's in the 902 exam. So you'll see in the 902 exam, you have to know all the operating systems, understand what all the differences are in those specific pieces of the operating system, and know what editions of the operating system are able to work properly. Maybe you're able to work through those pieces. Maybe you do know what those are. I think whenever I start working through the details here, is one that I really, really have to step through very carefully. It's very important in this exam that you read every single question and be able to work through it. And I have to agree in the chat room with folks that are saying these questions, I hate these kinds of questions that you're never quite certain if you answered all of them that you should. But I tried to make it one that was a little bit harder than one. I actually had it much easier, and then I changed around and I made it much harder. Yes, you need to select all that apply, just as it says in the question itself. Let's see how we did with this one. Well, we're split kind of evenly, really, across these. You can see 31%, 27%, 26%, 16%. If you're selecting all that apply, it looks like most of us selected all of them. I guess maybe the bottom three. Although 15% of us selected A. It's really not 15%. Obviously, this is broken out by 100%. But here we want to know what the right answer is for this one. Well, the particular feature that we're really looking for here is EFS. This is one that is the encrypting file system. This encrypting file system is something that's available if you're using NTFS on your file system of your computer, where you're able to pick an individual file or a folder, and you're able to encrypt just that file. So the rest of the drive is in a decrypted or non-encrypted form, but these specific items you've chosen to encrypt, and it's tied into your login. So this is something that really is very specific to you. This would not be BitLocker. BitLocker is a full disk encryption. And the question here specifically said file level encryption. So we wanted to be sure, I wanted to be sure I was telling you a very specific feature, although I'm trying to think that the answer would be the same if it was BitLocker. It might be worth going through that. As I mentioned, it uses your username and password to be able to encrypt this key. So you want to be very careful you don't lose your password. this would be very bad. Then nobody would have access to these files that are here. And it is supported in Vista Business Enterprise and Ultimate, Windows 7 Professional Enterprise and Ultimate, and Windows 8 and 8.1 Pro and Enterprise. So really, you've got a large number of operating systems that can support this file level encryption. And if we look at the different options that we have to support this, you can see Vista Enterprise, Windows 7 Professional, 8.1 Pro, and 8.1 Enterprise all support file level encryption. So when I said select all that apply, I could have just as easily said select all. So that's exactly the right thing. In the chat room, people are realizing now it's all of them. It is all of them. I actually put on this question all of the above, but I thought that was one that would just throw us off and make it too easy. I don't like the all of the aboves. So this is good. I don't think that's tricky. I think it's very straightforward. You have to know what file level encryption is, and you have to know what editions of Windows support file level encryption. That one is about as straightforward as you can get. So that's one where I would also consider, if you don't know what all these differences are between all of these file systems, this would be a good way to do it. Let's see if I can find on here before I flip back to this. I've got a list of what all of these features are. Try to make this a little bit bigger on my screen. I'm blowing it up and I'm blurring it as I do this. So Windows Vista, I bet I could make it just full screen, couldn't I? I could. But I've got to zoom out here. We'll make that full screen. We'll zoom up on it. So here's all the different editions of Windows. What a much sharper way to do it. Let's get rid of my head, shall we? We're going to really break this down. That's not the right thing. That's the right thing. There we go. So in Windows Vista, EFS, you can see, is supported in business. BitLocker is not supported in business. So this would not be the same answers. If I said full disk encryption, it would be Windows Vista Enterprise and Ultimate. It would be Windows 7 Enterprise and Ultimate. And it would be Windows 8 Enterprise and Pro, which is different. They kind of pop down to the Pro version for BitLocker and Windows 8. So the question would be a little bit different if I chose those two different ones, if I chose to say BitLocker instead of EFS. So that's a pretty good one to work through and try to figure out those pieces. One of the things that you may have found when you're trying to figure out EFS and BitLocker and to work through all of these different capabilities in the exam is there's a lot of things you have to know. And in fact, the folks at GTS Learning, who I partnered with, you'll notice that they've taken my videos and put it into their really great book. They have a fantastic book for A+ that really focuses on just the 901 and just the 902 exam objectives. They integrated my videos into their book. Another thing that they've done is create these live labs. So you can go to these live labs and have a full-blown lab of all of these Windows systems ready to go, all from your browser. This interface that's available, in fact, they've got a new interface. I see that they've just updated. I was playing around with these interfaces just the other day. And their new interfaces give you a different way to work through these labs. I've got the A+ lab up on my screen, in fact. This is one where you can choose all of these different labs that they have here for the 902 exam. Let's do the retrieving system information exam and being able to work through that. And they have a different set of exercises that you can step through for these exams. You can see the lab is on your screen, so you can see everything you need to know about the 5 systems that are here. And I don't have any extra software that I've loaded. This is all just running on my system. It's already started booting one of these systems. I'm going to click on these others and highlight it and power that one on. And it went to busy and power that one on. And you can see an update as it's going across the screen. And so I've really just powered on 5 different computers, the ones that are connected on this network. And now I can start going through these different labs step by step, going through it. It even gives you screenshots of everything you need to do. And I can do it all on my screen all at the same time. I can even pop some of these windows out to put it on another screen that I have right here. Extremely useful because they're all available wherever you happen to be. You don't have to have a full-blown Windows system. You don't have to have high bandwidths that are available. This is using the built-in remote desktop capabilities that are available through this HTML5 configuration. And when your system boots, it takes you to a normal Windows desktop. This is a full-blown version of Windows. This is a virtualized system. So you can do anything in this operating system, not just step through the things that you need to know for this exam, but you could go through and specifically address different capabilities of the operating system that have nothing to do with the exam just by stepping through these pieces. So in the chat room, some folks are asking about the link. If you want to know about this, you can go to the live labs. Go to the professormesser.com/live labs, and you'll be able to work through all of those labs and be able to use them. I like using the labs because I can go and take screenshots of things very quickly and work through them as if I'm local to the system. So I find that that's a great way to work through these labs as well, and being able to have the accessibility I need to be able to do anything I need at any particular time. You can also get some very nice discounts from the folks at GTS Learning by following that link. So make sure you follow the professormesser.com/live labs link to get all of the links you need. Here's the details on this. The live labs themselves, $99, comes with the ebook. It comes with 400 practice questions. So this is a great place to go if you ever need to figure out how you're going to do all of these things all at once. And they're all in one place. What a great way to do it. If you just need the ebook, it's only $35. And again, professormesser.com/live labs gives you all of those details that you might want to work with. And I want to thank the folks at GTS Learning for also supporting what we do here as well. Let's go through another question. I have a 22901 question for you. So we're going to go back to an interface question. Maybe this one will be something that you'll be familiar with. This is one that asks, which of the following would you commonly connect with a BNC connector? What a good question. Which one of these would I commonly connect with a BNC connector? And of course, I have some options for you. Would you use this BNC connector with? Would you use it with gigabit Ethernet? Would you use it with a cable modem, with a DS3 WAN link, with a POTS connection, or with multi-mode fiber? One of those would be a very common connection for BNC. This is very straightforward to be able to do that. It has everything in there to be able to work through. It's got to be one of these, and it's really one that is very specific to the BNC connector. Could any of these be done with? I guess actually multiples of these could use a BNC connector, but only one of them commonly connects with a BNC connector. Again, it's that language they use on the exam where you could have possible answers, but only one of these is really going to be the right answer. And I think what you'll find, not only in these questions, but also on the exam, is that it really does point to one specific question. There's really, in fact, on this one, there's no doubt. It's really one specific answer that's here. If you think you know what the answer is, you can go to the Socrative.com connection that you see here, and we can select the room name Professor Messer, or type in the room name Professor Messer, and you'll be able to answer this one as well. Some folks talking about the cost of the exams. Yes, in there. If you are someone who is in an educational facility, you have an EDU email address, there are actually some nice discounts available to take the exam. So make sure you check the CompTIA website. Go Google that one for educational EDU A+. Maybe the vouchers will be easy to find right there. And of course, if you are not in an educational facility, you can always go to professormesser.com/vouchers, where there is a 10% voucher discount there. Be able to work through those pieces. So what would you commonly connect with a BNC connector? Let's see if we happen to know the answer to this. Let's click how do we do? 52% of us said cable modem. 23%, coming in number 2, would be multi-mode fiber. 15%, 16% said DS3 WAN, and then single digits for gigabit Ethernet and a POTS connection. So I think at least we know, I think most of us know what a gigabit Ethernet connection looks like, and it probably doesn't look like a BNC connector. But that brings up a good question. What does a BNC connector look like? That's the first thing you have to step through in this question, because if you don't know what a BNC connector looks like, it's kind of hard to put it back into what it might connect to. This is a BNC cable and a BNC connector. See this bayonet that is here. In fact, that is exactly why the B in the BNC is a bayonet, and the exact specifications for this are the bayonet Neil Councilman. This is one where we need some standard connectivity to be able to work with this. And whenever you connect a BNC cable, you push it in the connector and you twist it just slightly. You don't have to spin it. You don't have to keep turning it. You simply twist it about a quarter of the turn, and it locks in place. That's the bayonet part of this. And that means if you have this cable in place, if you were to pull on the cable or trip over the cable, it's not coming out of that connection. That bayonet holds very firmly into that. I think in the chat room, yes, spinny locky is another good term to use. That's exactly what it is. It's a spinny locky. It's locked in with that little spin. This coax connection is what you would use this with. It's used with copper, so this would not be for a fiber connection, and it's very commonly used, at least these days, for DS3 WAN links. Back in the early days of networking, when we had 10-base-2, we used these types of connectors. In fact, that could very easily be a 10-base-2 to be able to send Ethernet signals over a copper connection. I'm so glad we went to twisted pair, so much easier to work with. Inside my studio, the video that you're seeing right now is being sent over a very standardized audio and video transmission mechanism that uses coax that looks very similar to this. Looks exactly like this. I have a bunch of black cables that look exactly like that, that's sending the audio and the video over these, and these connections are using DVI connectors, or they're using the DS3 connect. They're using the BNC connector to be able to work through those pieces and connect those pieces together. And that's what really connects all the video that's in my studio. It goes big to a big patch panel. It looks very similar to this picture, where it's just a bunch of BNC connectors on the patch panel, and then I can switch back and forth between any video that's in here. Very nice way to work with these cables, because I know nothing is going to pull out of there accidentally. So that way, whenever I turn on my system, I know that all these video connectors are going to be exactly where they should be, because they're not going to come out unless you unplug them. In fact, they send some wrenches with these that are very long that you can put into the rack and grab it and spin it open, because it's very difficult to get your hand in between all of these little connectors and be able to spin them and get them off of these. So if you answered C, DS3 WAN link, 15% of us got that one right. I'm now starting to feel bad. Perhaps I did make these a little difficult this time through. This is one where whenever you start working with these cables, you do need to know what BNC is. You're going to run into BNC connectors also used for video connections, not just the kind I'm using here, but video connections in the back of somebody's monitor. Very common to use those as well. In the chat room, some of the folks, yep, Steve says ham radio cables. A lot of those will use BNC. I have some that do that as well. In the background, I think I have have them up there. It's difficult to see. They're up on the top shelf. You don't see them here in my background, but I've got some equipment there that does use these BNC connectors to be able to do that. So very common. It would not be a cable modem. Cable modem uses an F connector. F as in Foxtrot. This is one that screws on, and then it connects on, then you screw it till it tightens as if it was a screw, and then you have to unscrew it to get it off of there. So that would not be the right answer. Multimode fiber, there are many, many different connectors for multimode fiber. You should absolutely make yourself familiar with those. And obviously you folks did not choose gigabit Ethernet. You did not choose POTS connection. You chose DS3 WAN link, the 15% of you. If you chose C, you got that one right. And that is actually our keyword for the month. If you are watching this video to earn continuing education units for CompTIA, you need to go to the top or the bottom of the Professor Messer website. There's a Contact Us link at the top or the bottom. And on that Contact Us, you need to fill out that form. Tell me that you watched the September 2016 A+ study group, that you need to put your name and your email address in there. And you need to put the special code word for the month, which is DS3. DS3 is our special code word of the month, so that I know exactly what of this you were able to watch, and you're able to, what I'll do is I'll turn these around this afternoon. I'll send you back a response that says, yes, you did watch this, and here's the one credit of CEUs that you can then go give to whoever's taking these CEUs from you. If you're watching this in a replay, you can also get continuing education. You don't have to be here live to get the continuing education. You might be watching this a year from now. And if you're watching this in a replay, you can absolutely send me an email by clicking the Contact Us link at the top of the bottom, filling that out, telling me that it is indeed the September 2016 A+ study group. And here is the special code word of DS3. And you can also send that to me, and I'll send you back one of those as well. Very useful to have that to be able to work through those pieces. Let's do another question and get another one of these in before we run out of time. Let's go to a Windows question. This one might be one that many of you are accustomed to. This is something I had to do recently. Maybe you're familiar with this as well. Your Windows desktop does not associate an application with text files, the .txt files. Which of these would be the easiest way to fix this issue? Which of these would be the easiest way to fix this issue? I have some options for you, so it is a multiple choice on here. Would it be to define an association in Control Panel / Default Programs Applet? Would it be to install a text editor? Would it be to use PowerShell to define associations? Would it be to run Windows Repair? Or would it be to run your text editor in compatibility mode? One of these will really be the best way to fix this issue. And this is, by the way, another one of these that whenever you start working through these problems, it is one that that you do have many options in here that actually would work. There's probably at least 3, 4 of these, maybe at least 4 of these that could possibly solve this particular problem. But again, I'm asking you for the easiest way to resolve this particular issue. Maybe this is one that a lot of you in the chat room, yes, I'm familiar with this. I can do this, being able to work through these. Some of you have run into this one. If you think you know what the answer is, go to Socrative.com, click on the student login, go to room name Professor Messer. For those of you that are on the replay, I'm sorry the Socrative won't work. This is one of the things you do have to be here live to be able to answer live in Socrative. If you've been trying this whole time and thinking, it's just sitting here and nothing's happening, there's nothing going on, that's because you have to be here live for me to run the Socrative piece on my side of the street here, my side of the screen. I think we probably did pretty good with this one and being able to work through it. And remember, you have to be able to choose from the answers that are there. So let's see how we did. Which would Windows Desktop not associate an application with text files? Which of these would be the easiest way to fix this issue? 73% of you said A, define an association in Control Panel Default Programs Applet, probably the largest number we've had so far today. I think a tie for second would be install a text editor or run your text editor in compatibility mode. And then single digits for use PowerShell to define an association and to run Windows Repair. So one of those that are there. So what would you do to be able to resolve this issue? Well, whenever you look at these file types of TXT, executable files, all of these different methods of associating a file extension with an application, sometimes those associations can be wiped away. Malware likes to modify these association types. Maybe you can manually change those. That might be an issue too. And whenever you click on these associations, they are either not opening the correct application or they're opening an application that you would not want to open for that particular file association type. The easiest way to change this would be to go to the File Associations section of the control panel under the Default Programs Applet. That is the easiest way to do this. And it's exactly the same in Windows Vista, Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 8.1, exactly the same process to be able to do that. In fact, I don't even think I have a screen. Oh, I do have a screen of these associations to be able to show you. So if you did answer A to change those associations, you got that one absolutely right. If you were to choose the control panel default programs, it shows you something like this, where you can go through and you'll see all of the associations that are available on your computer. And there's a lot. There's more than you ever realized that are installed. It tells you the description of what that happens to be, and it tells you what the default application that is used to do that. And there's a button up here that you can't see because my head is in the way that says change the program. So you can modify what a specific program is just by selecting it down here and clicking change program, and you'll be able to modify that particular application and being able to work with those. Now, if you knew that one, those of you in the chat room that are now saying this was too easy, now you've ruined it. You've now screwed up everything, because I'm now going to keep everything as hard as it ever was in the first few questions that we did. It's never now going to go back and be this easy. I'm so sorry. It was that one person who really messed it up for everybody. This is one where I'm glad you did know this, because now this is one, hopefully, as you're going through these exam objectives, there's certain things you should absolutely know, and use the exam objectives to be able to work through all of these different options that are available. You don't want to miss taking advantage of what CompTIA is providing for you. CompTIA has given you effectively all the answers that you need to know. People ask me all the time, what do I need to know for the exam? They have given you everything you need to know for the exam. They've told you what things you need to know, how much of them you need to know. They've told you the things you don't need to know because they're not listed in these exam objectives. If you have not downloaded the CompTIA A+ exam objectives, you must do that immediately. Stop your studies, type into the Google machine, CompTIA exam objectives. It'll take you right there. Or go to professormesser.com/objectives. I have a quick link to get you there. And that will, of course, be able to show you all the objectives. This is a very comprehensive list. I think I have the objectives on my computer. Let me pull them up real quick just so you can really see what I'm saying. I'm going to pull up the ones for 901. I think I have the latest version of these exam objectives for the 901 that are right here. And I'm going to flip through sort of the introductory part and get down to all of the different objectives themselves. So if we just look at hardware, given a scenario, configure settings and use the BIOS/UEFI tools on a PC. This is to understand how to do firmware upgrades and flash the BIOS. You need to do BIOS component information, understand how to get to the RAM, the hard drive, the optical drive, the CPU. In the BIOS configurations, understand the boot sequence, enabling and disabling drives. So whenever you're working, especially if it's a BIOS or a UEFI and you're trying to figure out what you should be understanding and what you should know for the exam, they've already told you everything you need to know for the exam. So if you can go through every single one of these exam objectives and check them off, then you're ready for that section of the exam. You can go to the next one, 1.2, explain the importance of motherboard components, their purpose, and their properties. Use it as a checklist. If you know everything that is in this massive document that CompTIA has provided, you're ready to take the exam. And you're going to do very well. You'll pass the exam if you know everything that's in these exam objectives. It will be very easy for you to pass the exam if you know everything that's in these exam objectives. Very useful to be able to use that. Yeah, it's kind of a difficult format now. They've got it in, but you could still use the tools that are in your PDF editor. Maybe the PDF editor that you're using allows you to do some formatting, and you can mark things on the screen. It can help you with that and being able to work through those. So that's my tip of the month that I give every month, which is download and use the exam objectives. Don't miss that opportunity. Well, we've gone through the first hour. Of course, I'm going to be taking calls during the second hour, but the big part of the question and answers is over for this month. But I do one of these every month. So you can always go to my next study group on October the 5th, which is the first Wednesday of October. Again, at 12 noon Eastern time to be able to do that. And of course, if you can't make that live event, I always have replays available on my website. If you came in late on this one, the replay is immediately available. You can always go to the /live link to see the last event that I had at professormesser.com/live. It is available immediately. Once I finish the study group, it takes a minute or two for YouTube to reset everything, and then they make the replay available. So it's available very, very quickly for you. Of course, I'm going to stick around here in this. We have another hour of things that I like to kind of stick around and open up the phone lines. We'll be able to answer questions, not just about A+, but really about anything. So much has happened in our industry this past week with training and all kinds of other things. It might be something worth talking about. If you want to always keep track of what's going on here, you can always find me at professormesser.com/Twitter, professormesser.com/YouTube. Of course, don't forget about my course notes if you'd like to support what we do here at Messer Studios, and these course notes might be helpful to you. You can find out more at professormesser.com/A+CN for APLUS course notes. Also, don't forget about my book that I told you I would never write. Is out at professormesser.com/PQC. And by this time next month, I'll have both the 901 and the 902 pop quiz collection on there already to be able to work through. My thanks again to GTS Learning. Don't forget about their live labs and the great pricing that they've created by following this link at professormesser.com/live labs. And of course, thank you. I wouldn't be able to do any of this without your help. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for watching what we're doing throughout the month. And of course, we do another one of these study groups for Network Plus next week. We do one for Security Plus the week after that. Of course, you can find out all about that at professormesser.com/calendar. And thanks again. Thanks for all of your support throughout the month. I would not be able to do any of this without all of the messages you send me, the things you want to learn about, and be able to put all of this And I think it always is something that motivates me to keep these things going. So I want to thank you for that as well. Stick around for the second hour. You have to leave. I can understand that as well. But I want to thank you for joining us for this month's Q&A and for joining us on the study group. We'll see you next month. Now I get to pick up the phone lines and answer some phone messages. Let's see. I do need to do a 900 series acronym quiz. That would be good. There's so many acronyms. I do not accept Bitcoin. I'm not going to accept Bitcoin. So sorry. It's not a question of do I accept Bitcoin yet. I guess the answer is no, I don't accept it yet. And you can keep asking and I will not accept it yet then either. Be able to work through that. Yeah, my dates are messed up as well. I wish it was Friday. My dates are messed up too because the storm that came through, many of you probably not aware, there was a hurricane, literally a hurricane, that came right over the studios. And it was quite a mess being able to work through that. Lost power I was lucky. I only lost power for 24 hours. This was Thursday night. So it's been almost a week. There are many people in town, just under 10,000 people in town, in a very small town here. We have 100,000 people that lost power. There's 10,000 that still have not regained power, just under 10,000. And what a mess to be able to do that. That's one that also becomes a little bit more of a challenge. Is that I was lucky to get power back in a 24-hour period, but it really was and still a problem for many people. Let's get our phone lines open. And how can we do this? See what happens when you go 2 weeks without having a show. You forget how anything works. We need to call in to our show so we can start it. Let's call in. I think I've got at least the line running. So if you wanted to get into the queue, you could call 855-785-7545. Oh, that's loud. Turn that down. What happened there?
Thank you for calling.
Boy, that was a thing. Let's not do that again.
Enter your 6-digit PIN number.
That's redundant, but I'll do it anyway. And
welcome.
So I at least called it.
Room and can manage your...
Okay, so I can at least get there. I'm watching the chat room. So if you are in there working the chat room, if you are in there and working through the pieces of the chat room, I'm reading it as well. I don't have a generator here at the studios. It's one that I wanted a generator that would cover everything because my studios are here also at my house. So I wanted to get a generator. It's one of those things. I'm going to absolutely get one of those. I moved into this new set of studios almost 2 years ago, a year and a half ago or so, a little more than that. And it's just one of those things never got to. Boy, being without power for 24 hours in the summer here in Florida is bad enough. And I couldn't imagine being someone who is still without power now. So it's a nice wake-up call to get a generator for the studio and for the house. Just makes sense. And it needs to be one that's going to cover the entire house. It needs to, of course, keep the refrigerator running and the freezer running, but also needs to keep air conditioner running. That probably is the most important part because people get angry after a while because it's so warm outside. One of those challenges. And of course, after a hurricane comes through, it's not just the heat, but it's the humidity that's in the air. It's very, very humid afterwards because of the amount of rain that has fallen. It takes so long to get that water away. Becomes a little bit of a challenge. And usually it's also raining a day after the storm as well. You're catching the bands that are hitting you as the storm is going away. So it's almost like a double whammy there to have those things happen. So I have been considering that putting in something there was a neighbor down the street that had a full house generator. So whenever power goes out, which it tends to do anyway, because there's storms and it's Florida and you lose power lines and that type of thing. And I'm in this particular city, it is very restrictive. You can't cut down trees without an order from an allowance from the city to be able to do that. So there's a lot more limbs that fall on lines here. And so there's a neighbor down the street, and whenever we have an outage, I hear his generator turns on immediately. And I'm very jealous. So we have to stop that. that needs to be fixed. But these things, it's time and money, right? It's about finding the right things to do and the right way to do it and get those running. Today's coffee, by the way, is a Pete's Major Dickinson today. So that's useful. Well, that's your drawback, of course. I live in a beautiful city that has more trees than you would find anywhere. It's an amazing place to live with these beautiful canopy roads, and the trees add a lot to the ambiance of where I live. Obviously, the disadvantage is that there's trees that can fall. A little bit of a challenge. And you can chop down some trees. If you're building, there's certain trees, but you have to go through the process, and they make it a little more difficult to be able to do that. And I had everything charged up. I had tons of things charged up and ready to go, but it's never enough, right, to be able to get that going. Let's go to the phone lines. The 803 area code is first up. Are you there, caller? What's your name?
Hey, I'm Cassie.
Hi, Kathy. Thanks for calling. What can we do for you?
Hey, I wanted to see if you could possibly give a better explanation of subnetting and describe binary and how we could figure out binary and translate that into subnetting.
This is probably a frequently asked question I get in my email inbox, especially for folks that are going through their Network Plus exam or going through their Security Plus exam. Subnetting is, of course, an important part of it. But now you'll notice, even in the A Plus, that there's a big section on having to do conversions between decimal, binary, hexadecimal, and octal. So you do have to know how to do those things. The subnetting part isn't necessarily part of the A Plus certification. Are you studying for a different cert for Network Plus or for your Cisco?
Both of them, yes. Network Plus and Cisco.
Yep, makes sense. So this is one big difference on the Network Plus is that for the Network Plus certification, you only have to be able to have a very high level perspective of subnetting. And they might ask you for a very specific thing that you need to be able to do, which is take one single IP address and cut it up into smaller pieces so that you can distribute it out to an organization. They might say you have one network address, but you have these number of networks and it has these many people on each network. How would you cut this particular subnet up into smaller pieces? And then you have to be able to do that. One thing you'll notice is that in the Network Plus exam objectives, very little, relatively speaking, very little of the exam has anything to do with subnetting. You might get a question about subnetting on your exam. You might get 2. It would be probably unusual to get 3 or 4. I guess it's possible. But the way that the exam is laid out, you may get no questions about subnetting on the Network Plus exam. I contrast that with the very first entry-level Cisco networking exam, which is the CCENT, which is effectively half of the CCNA. You have to know subnetting really, really, really well for that exam. You have to be able to take an IP address and subnet it out into smaller pieces and recognize how many hosts might be in that smaller piece and what the network address is and what the broadcast address is for those. And you have to be able to do it in about 10 to 15 seconds. You have to be able to do it very quickly. If you can't subnet that quickly for the Cisco exam, you're not ready to take that exam yet, because a bulk of that exam, a large amount of that exam, deals specifically with subnetting and being able to work through those. Now, this is one where I do have a video that goes through the process. In fact, it's multiple videos to answer the question that you've asked. It's multiple videos to be able to get to that point. And I'm only creating videos just for the Network Plus certification. But I have one video on binary conversions. So for those of you watching that are thinking, I need to get into this subnetting piece, start with the binary conversion video. It was either the last Network Plus study group or the one before that. We did some network binary conversion questions. And I stepped through the process that I use and what I write down on my piece of paper to be able to perform the conversions. That's the first thing you have to be able to do. And if you are not able to convert between decimal and binary very quickly, you need to become very proficient at doing that before you even go further into the subnetting piece of that. Now, in the Network Plus exam, I show you subnetting by taking everything, converting it from decimal to binary and performing binary calculations on that. The Network Plus exam at least gives you some leeway and timing to be able to make that happen. You would really never be able to do that in that format for this Cisco exam. You would need to learn a lot of shortcuts, and there are a lot of different ways to do this, but you need to find a faster way to do the subnetting for the Cisco. One of the things that I recommend doing if you're getting into the Cisco is kind of skip over the binary conversion part that I do on my Network Plus exams. Grab one of the Cisco Press books or look on the YouTube. There is a format called, I think they refer to it as the magic number or the most significant number in your IP subnetting. It's a very fast way of determining where the most important part of the IP address is, and then how to calculate that very quickly just using powers of 2. And I keep saying I'm going to create a video series on what would be the ultimate guide to subnetting, which steps through step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and step 5, so that you could learn how to do that a little bit faster. It's a little bit out of scope for the Network Plus, and so we probably won't do it on the study group today, but I think it's worth going through. So if you're trying to find a faster way to do it, whether it's for your Cisco or whether you just want to be able to do it faster for Network Plus, that is the process I would recommend you going through and stepping through. But before you do that, know your binary conversion parts very well, and then get into that magic number piece. Maybe even step through my video on IP subnetting where I break it down into the binary piece, because I think if you understand that, the magic number part probably is much easier. It makes more sense when you're stepping through it. But those are the tips I would give you to be able to step through those. And hopefully that can kind of point you in the right direction, Kathy.
Okay, and exactly what do we need to know for the A+? Is it just understanding subnetting and binary in general, or how deep does it get into?
There is no subnetting on the A+ exam. In fact, there's less subnetting on the 900 series exam. On the A+, it's the 901 that contains the networking part. On the previous version, it was the 801 that contained the networking. On the 801 exam, you had to understand IP classes. There was a CIDR block notation section. There were some binary calculations you had to do. They changed it dramatically for the 900 series, though. They dropped it completely from the 900 series. What they really focus on now in the 900 series is how do I configure a workstation to be able to connect to an IP network properly. So a lot of the what I call network administration functions, which are subnetting, calculating a CIDR block notation, being able to break networks up into smaller pieces and do the actual subnetting, none of that is on the A+ exam. In fact, a lot less of that is now on the A+ exam. And I think that's probably the best place to have it. I think the A+ exam should be focused on the workstations and the operating systems and getting those to work properly. And then what CompTIA has decided is let's save all of the IP address configuration of administration of the network for the Network Plus exam. So if you are taking the A+, you can take subnetting completely off the table. You don't have to know anything about subnetting, but you'll definitely need to know it for the Network Plus.
Okay, awesome. Well, that's a temporary relief, at least. Thank you.
And it is only temporary. Once you get it, though, I think a lot of people worry about subnetting because there's math, and I think that's a good logical reason to be worried about it. But when you realize it's really some minor multiplication, it's very logical, it's cutting things up into very specific standard pieces across the board, and if you can always calculate it manually back, it makes it so much easier. It's one of these things that people always say, I was worried about subnetting, and then suddenly it clicked for me. I got it. And I think that happens for most people is once you figure out, oh, that's what we're doing. It's not as bad as what I thought it was. It's really just cutting a pie into smaller pieces. It really helps everybody, I think. So don't worry too much about it. And I think you'll have one of those aha moments as well.
All righty. Well, thanks so much, Professor Messer.
Good luck, Kathy. There is subnetting. I literally have a mind map that I've created for doing subnetting, a whole series of videos on subnetting that would be from the very beginning to the very end. And I think I'm going to be getting back to that as soon as I finish the second book. I think it'd be very worthwhile to do. Let's go to South Florida, the 954 area code, mild stopping grounds. Are you there, caller? What's your name? Thanks for holding. Are you there, caller? I hear you breathing. Which is fine.
Hello.
Hey, what's your name?
Matthew, how are you?
Hey, Matthew, are you in South Florida?
Yes, I am.
Oh, yes, you are. Well, welcome. What can we do for you today?
I have a quick question about, I just got recently certified. Thank you for your videos. I just want to thank you for your time and all effort you put into the videos on YouTube.
It's great.
Congratulations.
Great help. Fantastic.
And I'm going to probably take the Network Plus soon also. But before I do, I know that the continuing education units, it would be useless for me to do them if I'm about to take the Network Plus because it would just renew. I seem to take the Network Plus and get certified, correct? Like the A Plus will renew in the date that I pass the Network Plus?
That is correct. And in fact, it's cheaper to do it that way too if you're planning to take the Network Plus, because if you collect CEUs, like you're watching this webinar and I send you a CEU, you have to pay an annual maintenance fee to be able to use those CEUs to apply them towards the renewal. If you take a CompTIA exam to renew, you don't pay anything. It just renews your lower level exams at the same time.
Okay, and my next question is, I'll be doing the Network Plus and the Security Plus, and I was reading on CompTIA's site that if you have all three and you need to renew all three, the highest level that you have, you would have to renew that one with the CEUs and then pay that fee, and then the following two below, which would be the Network Plus and A Plus, would renew along with the process of you renewing the Security Plus. Is that correct?
Yeah, whenever you're renewing a certification, you're always renewing the highest level cert you're getting. So if you already have the A Plus and the Network Plus and the Security Plus, the one that you need to renew is the Security Plus, and it renews all the ones underneath it. In the CompTIA world, they actually have one above the Security Plus, which is the CASP, the CompTIA Advanced Security Practitioner. So you could actually take the CASP and it will renew the Security Plus, Network Plus, and A Plus. Now, if you had CASP and you had to renew, really your only option at that point is to renew by accumulating continuing education units or by taking the next edition of the CASP whenever it was released. And that would, of course, renew your CASP because you passed it again, but it would also renew everything underneath it as well.
Correct. Yes, I just remember that the CASP is actually the best approach because it's the higher level, and you would also, once you renew that, the following below will also renew with it. So that's a great advantage there.
It is. Now, CompTIA is also got in beta right now. They publicly announced a beta exam that is going to fit kind of between the Security Plus and the CASP. They're looking for something in the middle. I don't know if that will be used to renew certifications or not. I don't think they've announced anything along those lines, but just keep watching the CompTIA website. They'll be able to tell you when that's released, where it's going to fit into the whole world of CEUs and renewals.
Okay, so I just want to confirm that if you have the A Plus, the Network Plus, and the Security Plus, before those 3 years run up, you want to make sure to do the CEUs for the Security Plus, and then the Network Plus and A Plus will renew along with the Security Plus as soon as you complete those CEUs, correct?
That is correct. And it's important. The thing you just said is that everything has to be active. You can't let A Plus expire or Network Plus expire and then take the Security Plus and expect them now to get renewed. There's nothing to renew. You let them expire. So you have to make sure you keep them active when you're going through that process. Correct, sir?
Correct. Okay, excellent. And that's pretty much it. So I guess as soon as you take Security Plus before the 3 years expire for the other certs, you get it renewed as well. So you don't have to pay until another 3 years after the Security Plus.
Correct. It's almost as hard to figure out how to renew as it is to take the exam itself.
Right. So okay, that's all right. Good to know. I mean, you have to know these things, but it's good to know because then you're gonna be paying money for no reason. When
that's right,
if you're gonna pay to renew the certs, you're gonna be paying to renew the certs, and you're gonna take another cert. You might as well wait to take the cert and then have it renewed then.
A lot of people don't realize that they don't realize there's no annual maintenance fee if you're taking a CompTIA exam to renew your CompTIA exams, and they end up paying the maintenance fee and then taking the exam, and they've wasted money on the annual maintenance. So that's an important consideration.
Yeah, and it'll say also on the website that there's no refunds also. So.
Oh yes, absolutely no refunds.
So be careful of that. So all right, thank you very much. I appreciate it, Professor Messer, and good to know that you're doing okay after the hurricane.
Me too. Thank you so much. Thanks for calling, Matthew.
Go Knowles. All right, take care.
Bye bye. Well, that's right. There's now a season of football that has begun. How could I have missed that? Holding on for 15 minutes. I'm so sorry for making you hold so long. 937 area code. Are you there, caller? What's your name?
I am. I'm Jen.
Hey, Jen. Thanks for calling.
I go take my 902 tomorrow, having the typical, freak out. You stopped working on my network. My 7-year-old's 6, running around grabbing me computers.
So of course, you're taking your exam tomorrow, and I asked the hardest questions I've ever asked on a study group. Sorry about that. Don't let that throw you.
I lost you on half of it because my network goes down.
Oh, no. Okay. Well, there's always the replay.
Yeah, I'm going to do that as soon as this is over. My concern is I've actually rented a Mac computer because I've never touched one in my life, which has helped with a lot of the Mac stuff.
Sure.
But for Objective 1.2, with all the file system types, they've added a lot since I took this test when it was a 702, when I was a new tech, missed it by one question, which doesn't help my anxiety. There's a lot of new file system types in that 1.2 objective that I've been having trouble finding in your videos.
Let's see what they have in the 902 that you're looking for. Let's pull up my exam objectives.
The FAT32 NTFS, I know. The XFAT, CDFS,
yep,
X3, X4, those are new to me.
Yep, those are actually, some of them were on the 800 series too, but they did add a couple new ones, especially the Linux ones they added in the 900 series. So I'm not too surprised that some of those snuck in there with the pieces. I think I stuck all of the file format pieces, including the exFAT, the NFS, the ext3 and ext4 are all in my, it doesn't make sense, but this is where they are. They're in the Planning a Windows Installation video, which is under my 1.2 section for the 902 exam. And it's down into the video. It's the last few, the last 5 or 6 slides of it. I'm talking all about file systems. So I talk about FAT32. I talk about NTFS. I go through the exFAT. I talk about the CDFS, all the Linux stuff, ext3, ext4, NFS. So at least I'm giving you an overview, and it's difficult to know.
That's where I'm the problem, because I can do, DOS, Linux is not my friend. So I'm like, okay, there's got to be a video somewhere I need to rewatch, and I could not for the life of me figure out which one it was because I've watched all of them.
That's definitely one you can do. One thing you can do also, here's a little tip. There's a couple tips I'll give you. First, on my website, if you're watching the videos on ProfessorMesser.com, the transcript of the video is written. If you scroll down past the video, I put the entire transcript on the page. So one of the things that you can do is it makes it easier to Google search this. You can go to Google and type in, let's even see if it works. Let's try Google and type in to Google. You can type exFAT and type site:professormesser.com, which means tell Google only search for a particular website to find this. And if you do, the first thing that comes up is a topic. Actually, this particular URL isn't even accurate anymore. It's from an earlier website, and I have no idea why Google insists on keeping it in their index. But the second one is Planning a Windows Installation, the 22902 1.2 video. So that's a quick way you can use. I actually had a search engine on my site that was working great, and it stopped working, and I have not added it back yet. I need to do that so that you're able to find things a little bit better. So now you're motivating me to actually do those pieces.
Okay. Yeah, I've just been using YouTube and just going straight down the list. So I was afraid I'd miss something or something. So
right in there. That should give you the overview you need for your exam tomorrow.
Thank you so much.
Good luck. Good luck, Jen. Let us know how it goes as well.
Yep.
Bye-bye. Oh, that's fun, isn't it? Getting ready to take that exam. Not something I would like to deal with myself. Let's go to someone who's around these here parts, the 850 area code. Are you there, caller? What's your name?
Hey, Professor Messer, Kevin in Pensacola.
Kevin, so Pensacola wasn't too badly hit, I don't think.
No, we dodged another bullet, thankfully.
I took it for you. What can I do for you today?
Okay, just a lot of rain.
Right over the studio.
Yeah.
The hurricane hit directly. There was no getting away from it.
Oh man, y'all got the eye wall, huh?
We did. I did, wow. And I got the bad side of the eye wall as well. There's in a hurricane, for those not familiar, the west side is usually the one, at least in these particular parts of the world. The west side is the bad side. East side tends to have less wind because of where the winds are swirling and the direction that it's going. And I, of course, Tallahassee in general got the bad side. So we're getting things back together, though. What can I do for you, Kevin?
Hey, well, I just want to thank you for the great quality of notes and videos, and I've got the pop quiz collection too. I have a very basic question that I've really been thinking about, and I can't find in anybody's advice really. Do you recommend scheduling the 901 exam close to whenever you take the 902 exam, or do you recommend spacing them out?
This has come up a lot this week for some reason. I don't know why suddenly it's hit, probably because a lot of people have started their classes and they're now trying to plan this out and figure out the pieces. There are many philosophies on this, and some of the philosophies that have come through the years have said to take both exams on the same day. And I couldn't necessarily disagree with that, because if you go back to the 800 series or 700 series or even the 600 series exams, a lot of the topics tended to spread themselves across both exams. For example, on the 800 series exams, you learned about hardware, and that's the 801. And then on the 802, you have to know how to troubleshoot the hardware. Well, what CompTIA has done in the 900 series is they've really created a very specific divide in these two exams. So when you take the 901, you learn about hardware, and also on the 901, you learn how to troubleshoot the hardware. And everything that's on the 901 is a very self-contained group of information. If you look at the exam objectives on the 902, it's a similar situation. Everything on the 902 is very self-contained. So probably, I've always told people, take one exam first, pass that one, and then shift your efforts over to the next exam and learning that content. Don't try to learn both exams at the same time, unless you happen to be in the industry and you have a lot of experience and you're very comfortable with the content. That's a different situation. But I think most people that are going at this exam that are trying to learn all of these different concepts, I highly recommend you focus on the 901, learn everything you need to know about the 901, take the 901 exam, and then shift your focus to everything that's on the 902. There is very little overlap in those two exams, very little. And the amount of overlap that you could possibly find could never justify, in my mind, trying to study for both of those at the same time. For those of you that are wondering, there is no time frame that you have to take the second exam in. You have to take it before it's retired. That is the only time frame you're really on. So if you take the 901 right now, or you take the 902 right now, you could take them in any order. If you take it right now, you have to pass the other exam before that exam is retired. And I expect that exam will be retired. Watching this in September of 2016, it's going to be retired in about 3 years. So you could conceivably pass one of the exams today. You could conceivably wait 3 years before taking the other half of this and getting certified. I don't recommend you wait that long, but you at least have plenty of flexibility in planning out your scheduling with your study schedule and when you want to take the exam. Don't worry that you're under a time frame or a time crunch, because you really aren't.
Okay. And once I get that A+ certification, would it behoove me to go straight to network, or could I jump to security?
Obviously, CompTIA would like to see you go to network and then security, because the Network Plus will renew the A+, and Security Plus will renew Network Plus and A+. If you jump to security, security will obviously renew your A+, but then if you take Network Plus next, Network Plus is only going to be able to renew your A+. It won't renew your Security Plus. I also personally think that the Network Plus exam, of those three, the Network Plus exam is the one that probably applies to the broadest amount of IT, because everything connects to the network. If you're a database administrator, there's a networking aspect to your job. If you're a data center or server administrator, there's a huge networking aspect. Obviously, if you're on the network team, there's networking. If you're in security, there's networking. Everything touches the network. And I think that's probably the most well-rounded certification that you can get. And that's why I generally recommend that people take the networking next, because that's a good jumping off point. Once you take your Network Plus certification or a networking certification of any kind, that is the place where you can say to yourself, what do I like doing in IT? Do I like working with databases? Do I like working with operating systems? Do I like working on the network side? Would I rather work with desktop operating systems and managing the desktops? Because at that point, you've got the foundations and you can really jump anywhere you'd like. I think networking is also a lot of fun. I think that it has, the people laugh at me when I say that. I really got into networking. I love networking. It's built a nice career for me because I was able to use that knowledge in everything that I did from that point forward. And I think it would work that way for you as well.
Great. Well, I really appreciate your advice, and I'm going to dust off my old iPod just so that I can buy your MP3 notes and put it on there.
I appreciate that. That also helps keep things going here. I say keep the light on, keeps the lights on, but this week the lights didn't stay on very much, but it wasn't because of you. That was because of the storm. I appreciate the support, Kevin.
Hey, all the best, James. Thank you very much.
Take care. That was that is a challenge. And Kevin's right, by the way, for all of my courses, although you can watch every single video of mine online, every minute of every video will always be free online on all of my courses. You can, of course, buy the courses for offline use. I sell the video package that includes the videos and the audio in MP3 format and my course notes and excuse me, and my pop quiz collection. Now I've included my book with that as well, and I'll include the other book with those too. And if you buy the MP3 files, I include my course notes and ultimately both of my books, just the first one there. But that's one where you can take them offline if you want to. That helps support what we're doing on the site as well with those pieces. It's one where whenever I start trying to figure out what to do next, I'm always going back to what you're telling me as well and working through those pieces. And I think the Network Plus, we're talking about this in the chat room, I think the Network Plus is the jumping off point. Some folks there are saying, I'm going to get a security exam next. That's you. If you're going to be getting a security exam, you better know networking. And I've said this in other study groups before, but I think it's worth mentioning again. I spent up to the last year and a half, I spent 7 years with a security and IT security startup company that eventually went public. So it was extremely successful in what we were doing. But I got to go in as a systems engineer every day to security people in the Southeast and the Eastern United States and see how they were running their security world. And one thing that is important with IT security is you have to know IT networking very, very well. That's because security is so integrated into the networking side of things. If you start with firewalls, which are really the most fundamental IT security appliance you're going to have in your environment, it's connecting to the network. It's routing most of the time, but it also could be switching, or it could be sitting in a virtual wire or a bump in the wire. So you have to know how to configure the network settings on each side of this to be able to support that configuration. And usually they are redundant, so you have to be able to support a redundant networking configuration. These are usually connecting to a third-party site via IPsec, so you need to be able to configure an IPsec tunnel, which has extensive routing and IP addressing components to it. You have to be able to set up security policies for particular subnets, particular VLANs, configured in particular ways. The networking part of security goes on and on and on, and you have to be able to understand those pieces. If you jump into security without doing any of the networking piece, it will be substantially more difficult for you. You're really starting at a disadvantage. And that's why when you finally get into IT security, it's usually because you started on networking and then moved into security. That's not always the case, but in all of the places where I have visited, these are people that I've worked with for 20, 25 years that I was visiting in some places. And these were people I knew when they were in the networking team, and now they've moved up into security. It's just a logical progression. So make sure you think about that as you're planning your goals. A lot of people say, I'm going to start with security. And my usual comment is, you don't usually start with security. You usually start on the networking side, sometimes in the operating system side when you're talking about IT security and working through those pieces. Now, obviously, security is very broad. There's a computer science world of security as well. And when you talk about IT or really technology in general, you can separate it into really two different domains. There is the IT side, the information technology side, and then there's the computer science side, the CS side. Computer science really focuses on application development and understanding how to secure applications. So if you're getting into security from a computer science perspective, it's usually about applications and making the applications more secure and protecting those applications. When you talk about IT security, you're talking about everything else. So you're talking about the ability for people to safely communicate out to the internet. You're talking about antivirus, anti-malware. You're talking about protecting the desktop, protecting the server, configuring firewalls, intrusion prevention systems, URL filters, proxies, URL decryption, SSL decryption, all kinds of different technologies on the networking side. So that's where you start to see a divergent in what people are interested in doing. Usually you either focus on computer science or you focus on IT. There's not a lot of overlap there just because those two different areas are so diverse and so complex, it's difficult to know everything on those and work through those pieces. And there. So that's one of those whenever I talk to people about what should I do next, I come from a world of understanding. I started with PCs. I started with the operating system themselves. I moved into more of a Windows support environment, then moved into networking, and then moved into security. That was my path. Yours doesn't have to work that way, but it's a very logical path. It's not like I planned that. That's just how it somehow happened. And that's one of the things that you'll find if you're just getting started in this industry. That's how it happens. You start with one thing and it just kind of blends into something else that you find an interest in. I look today at what I used to do was secure these people that were going to Twitter and to Facebook and making sure those applications were secure. That was one where both when I started with IT, there was no Twitter, there was no Facebook, there was no internet. So you can't plan always for what you're planning to do, but what you can plan on doing is just going with the flow. And you'll be surprised where that flow will take you in that. From the chat room, folks are asking, when you do renew your certification, it's for 3 years. So if you got your A+ exam and you passed, you took both A+, and you got your A+ certification, and it's been a couple of years, it's about a year before that particular certification expires, and you take your Network Plus and you pass it, and you become Network Plus certified. At the day you passed your Network Plus, it resets the certification for your A+ another 3 years. That is lined up perfectly with when you passed the Network Plus exam. So it does add on 3 years. If you took the A+ exam and passed both exams today, and tomorrow you went and passed your Network Plus, you would at least get one more day of your certification. It doesn't add 3 more years. It doesn't now make it 6 years later until it expires. No, it just moves it up to 3 years from the date that you did that. That would be great. If you could pass all 3 and you were good for 9 years. Nope, doesn't work that way. Technology changes way too fast to be able to work through things that quickly. So unfortunately, it only resets it for the next 3 years, whatever it happens to be. Let's go to the 540 area code. Are you there, caller? What's your name?
Hey, how you doing? This is Eric from Stafford, Virginia.
Hey, Eric, thanks for calling. What can we do for you?
Well, first off, I just wanted to start out by thanking you very much because I used some of your material and passed my 901 back in July.
Great. Congrats.
Yes, thank you much. I really enjoyed the videos and the material and all this stuff, and I really enjoyed the quizzes and the email, especially like the last goofy answer that you usually written there.
They all can't be winners, but I try.
Yes. So just been working on that, and I tried for the 902. Probably rushed that a bit because didn't do so hot on it. I only got a 595, but I'm just trying again. I'm gonna plan on using your material more and just giving myself more time, and I'll get it again.
One of the things with the 902 I found as well is that it really relied on more hands-on. So if you can get in front of a Windows machine and go to grab your exam objectives and just step through everything that's in the exam objectives and know where those things are, start the application they're talking about, start Performance Manager, see it working, open up the help, read a little bit about Performance Manager. In my mind, having that extra time on the operating system itself can also get you a few more points when you sit for the exam.
Yeah. I've been working on getting my VirtualBox running so that I can get in front of some other operating systems on. Really like that.
Good. One of the things you should also know about, especially for anybody who's working with the 902, because the 902 now goes into Windows Vista, Windows 7, and Windows 8 or 8.1 really is they're pretty much the same thing from the operating system perspective. Is having VirtualBox or some type of virtualization running can really help you because you can run all of those operating systems at the same time or at least individually on the desktop that you're using. Even if you're using Mac OS or you're running Linux or you're running Windows 8, you'd still be able to do some hands-on with those other operating systems.
Right. Yeah. I just don't know if RAM would be a big concern there. If I would need a lot more, since especially if you're adding a whole lot more than one operating system on there. It's
a significant concern. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But I found though that obviously Windows Vista, Windows 7, and really Windows 8 sort of can run in about 2 gigabytes of memory. So if you've got a Windows operating system and you've got 4 gig in your system, which is a pretty small system by today's standards, and you weren't running anything else in the operating system, you could probably get some of these other operating systems at least up and running enough to do what you needed to do, because you don't have to run, Photoshop in this. You really just need the operating system to run, and that you could probably do pretty well in 4 gigabytes. You could certainly do it with 8 gigabytes in your system.
I may need to add more because as of now I only have 3 gigs.
Yeah, that is really going to be a tight squeeze to be able to do that. So that might be worthwhile to find a memory upgrade and at least get you over that 4 gigabyte, preferably at least 8, to be able to do some of that virtualization piece. Absolutely. And you, of course, you might also want to look at, they are a sponsor, but I like the Live Labs because you've got all of these operating systems running in that environment, and all you need is a browser. So for it may be less than the cost of a memory upgrade to be able to have access to all of those operating systems. That part is completely up to what you need to be able to do and when you need to do it.
Right. Yeah. And I've gotten into more mobile stuff. In fact, I've had a recent interview for cell phone repair, and they do mobile devices and computers and even game consoles, which I'd really enjoy.
Nice.
But I in fact acquired a really great iFixit toolkit. I believe you know about those.
Oh, I love iFixit.
Pro toolkit. Yes, I love iFixit too. I go there a lot now, and I got it from a great friend and mentor. And I've just been taking a lot of things apart now, getting more experience with small things and big things, and looking at the insides of them.
I love their toolkits. I'm showing one on the screen now, which is their ProTech toolkit. This is one that I have too.
Yes.
That anything you need for your mobile device, those tiny little screwdrivers, all the way up to larger pieces, along with all of the different spudgers and everything else you need to open up those boxes. I've done tons of repairs on my iPhone, and all I did was buy the battery and ship it to me, and then I was able to do the rest from there. It's also a great thing to know that you could do that. You can save a lot of money that way, or get a great job that way.
Yeah, I love it. It's awesome. And I, in fact, used it to fix an issue with my phone because what happened was I was having a SIM card issue, and so after a long time of power cycling it and then not doing anything, I tried taking it out, but like an idiot, I forgot that it needs the SIM tray to go back in, and I just stuffed it in there without the tray, and it was stuck and not working. And now I had to open it, and I had no way of opening it.
Yep.
And I was also stuck not being able to receive or make calls too. So I was stranded for a bit, but I got the pentalobe screw set, opened it up, and just unwedged it, brought it out, and put it back in properly, and everything was set.
This is how it begins, of course, is that the same thing happened with me, and I messed up something on my laptop. I think it was a family member messed up something on their phone, so I was able to grab their phone, but I didn't have the tools. They're very specialized tools that you need to work on these mobile devices. And not only does iFixit have great tools, they're not a sponsor, I just love their stuff. iFixit, they also have great how-tos. They will step you step by step with both video and screenshots and images of what to do and how to do it and what exact screw to remove and what screw not to remove, which is probably most important. It's just a great website overall for mobile devices and other devices as well.
Yeah. I'm really, really excited about it, and I like taking part in things. So
perfect.
I enjoyed that.
Well, good luck with the 902 then, and as you're going through and planning out your next steps, I think knowing the mobile device market can only be good at this point.
Yeah, I just also had some questions, some advice for some other projects I had. We have all these practically ancient computers around the house that a lot of them I don't know how to resurrect. I don't know how to bring back even one machine. I think it's been sitting for too long. That we had a 98 machine.
Nice. Wow.
Yeah. It was running 98. I don't know at what point we turned it off, but I remember last time I was trying to working with it, the FAT was broken, and I tried formatting it, and nothing really happened. And I didn't. And plus, I tried to find a new version of 98, but that's
not
actually impossible, almost illegal for some reason. And I just didn't know what to really do with it.
It's a balancing act, of course, because you have these older systems that they work. Power supply works. They've got memory inside of them. The hard drive is working. The display is fine. But it's, as you mentioned, very difficult to find any type of recovery or original ISO of the operating system to be able to support it. And then even if you did, it's not safe. It's not something that is supported. There's all kinds of security issues running that operating system. But what a lot of people will do, and what I've done, is with these older computers, they may not run Windows very well or be supported in Windows very well, but they run some of the pared down versions of Linux extremely well. So it may be that you would have enough CPU cycles in that machine to be able to use it as a basic browsing computer, or to be able to have an email front end, or at least have something that would be internet accessible for a number of different application uses.
Right. Yeah, I'd love to be able to run Linux, so maybe I'll give that a shot.
That's a good way to do it.
It was weird. Yeah, it was weird when I've been trying to work with it last time. This is a long time ago since I worked with it. I think it's still probably disassembled a bit. But last time I was trying to get it running, some of the text on the black screen was broken. Like there were some bits of it scattered around. I don't know if that had to do with a hard drive or video or what.
Now you get to troubleshoot and find out whether, run a hardware diagnostic. Is it the cable? Is it something wrong with the monitor? Now you get to do that part.
Yeah.
I think also worthwhile. A lot of people who have these machines sitting around grab a version of Linux. There are a lot of versions of Linux out, so many different distributions. But usually there's a distribution that you'll find that has one that's designed for systems that don't have a lot of memory. So look for those specific distributions. Sometimes they don't even include the graphical interface, and you're using it just as some type of file service or some other type of Linux service itself. So look around for those and try installing those. You may find that you get some pretty good years left in that old hardware.
Yeah. Is there a way to find it on floppy?
Probably not, but they will provide, what would be the best way to do it? It'd probably be plugging in some type of either external drive. If you have USB on those older systems, that may be the way to do it. If you have CD, is probably the better choice on those older systems. You may have to burn a CD to be able to get that Linux running, or find somebody who can burn a CD for you.
Yeah. I was thinking, even as old as Linux is, I wasn't sure if you would be able to find that anymore.
Yeah, you may find somebody that has managed to take a Linux distribution and create some image files for a floppy disk. I would not be surprised if there's one out there, quite honestly. It may be difficult to find, but I would bet somebody has done that at this point.
Yeah, I believe it just had a recent birthday, didn't it? I think it was about 25 now.
Probably about right. Yeah. So good luck with that. At least that gives you some hands-on with Linux as well.
Yeah, I'd love that. All right, well, thanks so much.
Thanks for calling, Eric. Another thing I'd mention is that if you are planning to run a virtual machine on your Windows system so that you're able to bring up and run Windows Vista, although Vista may not be there anymore, Windows 7, Windows 8, 8.1, Microsoft has a developer site where they make images of their operating system available for non-production use. And this is certainly non-production use. I've gone through their terms of their end-user license agreement to make sure this is something we can do. This is out on Microsoft's Edge developer site. If you go to, what's the best way to do this, to get to this site? Probably, what's that URL? In fact, I have the URL right here. What did I type in to get there? If you go to modern.ie, if you type in modern, modern.ie, that's the quick way to get to this website, which is now developer.microsoft.com/en-us/Microsoft-Edge. It's involved. Or look for the Microsoft Edge developer site. There's a tools pull-down menu there that goes to virtual machines, and you can select whatever virtual machine platform you're using. I'm using this virtual machine. They have Windows 7 and Windows 8.1. So they got rid of Windows Vista on here, unfortunately. And they even have Windows 10 running on here as well. So you could choose Windows 7, any one of these running Internet Explorer, and they have platforms for VirtualBox, Vagrant, Hyper-V, VPC, VMware, and Parallels. So it doesn't really matter what type of virtualization software you're using. Go out to modern.ie, and you can download and use those Microsoft operating systems for no charge, because you're using them in a non-production lab type environment so that you can learn all of these topics. It's too bad they don't have the Windows Vista there anymore. That would be a very good one to be able to use. It's too bad to be able to have that there, but at least you have some options. If you're running Windows 10, now you at least have access to Windows 7, Windows 8, which are probably a very big part of the exam and what you're going to need to know. But don't forget about that Vista. It is in the exam objectives, so they could certainly ask those things of you as well. Well, that has brought us to the end of our second hour. Can you believe it? That went pretty quick. I'll apologize now for how difficult those questions were. No, I won't. They need to be difficult. We need to be able to learn something. If you went through those questions in the study group and you got some of those things wrong, take it as an opportunity that we were able to learn something today. And maybe that will also help you when you finally sit down for your exam, and you'll be able to remember some of those things we went through. I want to thank you for joining us on the study group. Don't forget about the other things that we do throughout the month. You can always find out more of what's going on at professormesser.com/calendar. And of course, we've also got all kinds of things that are happening throughout the month. If you're somebody that likes to attend our live events, our Network Plus study group is next week on Wednesday, same time, same place. Just show up on next Wednesday and we'll do Network Plus as well. In between now and then, if you have questions or anything you want from this side, you're always welcome to go to the top or the bottom of the Professor Messer website and click the Contact Us link, which is really Contact Me, and I'll be glad to get back in touch with you. Thanks for joining us this month. We'll see you next time on the Study Group. Thanks, everyone.